All right, we are recording. This is the workshop on Google Sheets. I guess either no one's interested or Sunday's not a good day, so I'll have to switch that up maybe. And it could be a little bit of both. I mean, I don't know. I know people, Sundays are precious to them, so I just wanted to try it and see, and maybe we'll try an evening one time, a Sunday evening possibly, or a Saturday evening maybe if nothing's going on. We'll try that too. Usually the weekends are better for me to do a workshop. I can do a workshop during the week. If anybody is watching this and they want it at a different time, please let me know. All right, we're going to talk about Google Sheets. Let's get right into it. I'm going to use I'm going to use my Google umpire list that I use because I want to be able to show you something that I've already done and make it easier and already have data. So I'm going to do that. Let me do a screen share. Let's see, screen one. And you should be able to see that. And it has the fall schedule from this year just for the minors team, but it has a bunch of information on there. So I figured I would go ahead and just so you can kind of see, and these names mean nothing. So I changed the name so it doesn't mean anything. I picked up some names from years ago, actually is what I did, and just changed those names on this one because this is, like I said, a fake one. So what I do a lot of times is I make formulas. Like, so for example, if I wanted to add umpires over here, okay, and I have to pay the umpires, all right, and let's say I'm going to use, let me make it kind of a little list over here of those umpires. We'll say Andrew, since you're here, and we'll say Richard. We'll just use community members. How's that? And Wayne. Okay, so I have you three here. What I'd like to do is I'd like to make sure that these guys have umpires for each one of these that have something in it. If it has a name over here, I want it to have an umpires here, but I only want to use those three names, and I want to make sure, and I want to type their names correctly. So if I, for example, if I don't know, oh, my headset, if you'll, you're muted.
Blah, 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 blah. That should get it going.
All right, there we go. So that way I don't have to type their name out right every time, but I want to make sure that when we write them a check that we get the name spelled properly. You know, you might have I have a guy right now on my system, in our system. His name is Art Neugebauer. Try and spell that right every time. But this way, I want to do what they call data validation. So for me to do that, and it also gives me a pick list. So what I want to do is I want to add the name. If there is anything there on the left, I want to be able to put the name in. So for example, I want to use G4 through G forever. That's one thing I love about Google Sheets is you can do that forever, whereas Excel you can't. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I want to go data validation. I'm going to go down here, data validation. I'm going to start in, I have only G4 selected, cell range. I actually want this G4 through G. I want all of G. I could put G100 and it would stop at 100. But if I add any games or anything, it won't catch that after 100. So that's why I just put G. It's pretty awesome. Very robust, and again, it's something Excel does not do. So I want this data validation to pertain to this. The data validation, the criteria, I want the list from a range inside my computer. And this could actually be on a whole nother sheet or something like that. If I go here and I select that sheet, I can actually just highlight those three, and that's K2 through K4. and hit OK, and it'll show that list. And then I hit save. When I hit save, if you notice, see the little arrow that it put right next to everything? You can actually give it to where you can put an error message, hey, that person's not in the list. Okay, so you can also allow them, it'll give you data validation. There's a couple of different ways to do data validation, but what it'll do is it'll give it where you can say, go ahead and let them put something new, but I want an error to come up. Or you can say, I don't want them to be able to put anything new because this is how they're going to get paid. And this is a better way. This is what the validation part is. So now I can pick Richard for this game. I can pick Andrew for this one, and I can pick Wayne for this one. So I can pick those from a list, and I just go next to it here. I can do this one. I can do Andrew, and then Richard, Wayne, and then there's a 531, so I'll get Andrew on that one too. So he's actually doing 2 games. And obviously, see, this is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever, all these different days. So you make sure that's on a different day and all that kind of stuff. But this is the way you would do that. It's kind of cool. It's kind of neat if you need to pick something for something that's a data validation. That's what that does. And the thing is, the thing that's dynamic, if I move, I'm not sure if this is going to work. I'm going to try it. But if I added this and put Michael Daniels, and that's not the same format, and because what I like everything to look the same or look good, I'm going to, while I'm in Wayne Nix's cell, I'm going to go up here to this little paint roller. You can see it says paint format. I'm going to click it, and then Wayne kind of gets the little ants around it, and I move that up, and then Michael Daniels is formatted the same way. That's kind of a cool trick too when you want one format to be the same as the other format. Now what happens is none of the names change, but let me see if, look at there, Michael Daniels is added to the list now because I added it in the middle. So now I'm actually a choice. So when you do that, you want to add it in the middle. If I did it on the end, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But the best thing to do is add it in the middle if you have that ability, because I know it shows up then, like you saw right there. That's perfect. It adds it to it. Really nice. It's a really cool thing. So you can keep your list over here and use that list in here for when you're picking stuff. Kind of cool. I like that. Go ahead, ask your questions.
Okay, in row number 9,
Yeah.
why the different text for my name versus everything else in that column?
If you notice, everything here is smaller text. The same thing applied that I was talking about, the format. When someone entered that game in later, when they came in and entered that, they didn't know how to change the formatting on it. So what I can do is I can take this and I can highlight that whole row. And remember the paint roller? If I take that paint roller and move it up one arrow, it makes it exactly the same.
Okay.
So now that is the same as everything else. Yeah, that does drive you a little crazy, doesn't it? All right, so that's how you get everybody's name, okay? That's how everybody's going to get their name, okay? So what we do, well, hey there, Mr. Russ Worthington. How are you, sir? All right, so one thing is kind of cool too. One thing that I do, this is how, let's say I want to, I want to pay these guys, okay? I'm going to pay them, let's just say $10. Just for the fun of it, we're going to say $10, all right? So what I do is I'm going to put 99, okay? And then I'm going to do 920. And I'm going to make these don't have to be that big, large text. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this all smaller size. Again, I'm doing this quickly, so. All right, so this thing can be, let's make this 12. That's cool, and no bold. There we go, and format them all in the center. Okay, so 9. All right, so I have that. What I want here is I want to be able to take, if that list is somewhere else, let's just say that list is somewhere else, and I want that list to come over here. To do a formula to get that, I would just do equals and then here and then select that name, okay? And with that, let me change this back down to 12. Okay, so, and then what I can do is I can just drag this down and this will go as long as there are names there, even below that. Like this would be looking for, if there was anything in case 6, it would pick that up here, okay? Then what I want to do here is I want to have, let's just say $10. Okay, this is the amount of money. Let me center this. Well, I really went crazy with that 16. I usually don't do that big, but I was copying their formatting. So this is the person's name, and this is the amount. So actually, I can have this under the dates. Like that. I will do a right justify so their names are there. Let's just say, okay, so now what I want to do is, this is where the formulas come in that's really, really dynamic. Okay, so I want to go, this is pretty, it's going to be pretty cool. I need to get every time, and I believe it is going to be G. Let me just make sure of that it's still G. Yes, for the umpires. Okay. Every time. So this is going to be a advanced formula, but I'm just going to show you how dynamic and what it can do. I'm going to equals sum product. And a lot of times when I'm doing these, I have to change it. All right, hold on. I'm not even showing you. I'm doing it on the wrong thing. Here we go. Equals sum product. Hang on a second. I want to get everybody's name. So I'm going to go, I'm going to start at the array 1, whatever that means. For it doesn't really mean anything to you right now, but it will. Okay, so I want to get, start on G4. And Andrew, do you remember, you were in here earlier, do you remember what I said about getting the whole row versus just up to 100?
Yeah, but you put it before the last one.
Okay, so
Because if you add after the last one, then you add more than 100, it won't pick it up. But if you add above your last name.
So what am I going to put there? In some product in this formula, I have G4, and then what's the end of that? What's the end of that range? Do you remember?
No, I don't. But
all right, if I put G100, that would give me up to the 100th row.
Up to the 100.
Right. So if I leave
you just
off,
put G. Yeah, you just put G.
G. So now G gets the whole row. So it goes past 100. So you can see over here on the left-hand side, I'm getting that whole stinking row, which is what I want. Because if I add something else, I'm going to want that. All right. Now, I want the same formula that G4 to G. I want that to lock in at G4. Because if I copy this formula down to Richard, then Michael, and then Wayne, that G4 is going to move G5, G6, G7. Yeah, and I don't want that to happen. So to keep that from happening, I'm going to hit the F4 key. If I hit F4, if you notice, see, put the dollar signs around that. I don't know how well do that, but it put dollar signs in front of the G and the 4 and in front of the G. That locks that range. That range will not change. Okay. So now I'm going to put equals this name. So what I'm doing is I'm looking all through G every time it sees that name. So it's looking at Andrew Hatchett and giving me the results for that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put its own brackets around this part of the formula because I got to do more than that. Okay. So now I have G4 through G. I'm looking through that column and picking out Andrew Hatchett. Okay. That's what the M3 is. That's from right here. You can see it's purple. You can see the purple text M3 highlights Andrew, which is purple, and the yellow, you can see G4. You see how it has yellow around it? It lets you know what you have selected. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I've got a question about that M column.
Uh-huh.
Where you've got that 9/9, is that a date or is that supposed to be a column header?
Yeah, you'll see in just a second.
Do you have a link to that Google sheet?
I do not.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you want to be able to see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Is
No,
that
I do
possible?
not.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, that's a good point. I should do that whenever I'm doing sheets, is send that link out to that. And I'll make note of that for next time. All right, so now I'm going to hit comma. And now what I want to do is I want to check everywhere where the date is. Okay, so now what column over here do I have dates in? Here, you can't see it all.
Looks like B.
Yeah, so B. So I'm going to start with B4 just like I did here because it has to be the same size. So what am I going to do? B4 through what? Just taking a guess. It doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong answer. B, exactly. So I'm going to go. So that way, if you see it's blue here, you can see that all turned blue, and that's column B4 through B. Just like I did G4 through G, I'm looking at B4 through B. Do you remember what key I hit to lock those?
F4.
So F4, good answer. Boom, there it is. It gave the dollar signs. Excelente. Now, what I wanted to do is I want to do the date between, okay? So I want it between these two dates that you were just asking me about, Andrew. So I want it greater than or equal to that first date, okay? And then I'm going to close that up. So now I have, see, and it gave it the kind of reddish color there. You can see that. Now I'm going to do, but I also want to, in that same column, B, okay, so B4 through B, I also want to do it, and then I'm going to F4 to lock it in, less than or equal to this date, okay? Now, I'm going to F4 this date because those dates will never change. That's where I change them, and they never change. So, for example, I'm going to F4 that, and over here on M1, I'm going to lock that in too because they'll never change. So let me close out this one, and that just closed out this section of it. Now I need to close out the whole thing. Oops, I got to hit the parentheses again. And boom, look at that. So what it's telling me, okay, so if these are dates, let me reformat those so they look like dates. I can go over here to date. Boom, there you go. So now what happens is, and I can make this yellow to let me know when I go back. I always do yellow. Oops, not yellow text. I always do yellow to say this is where you can enter data. That's just my thing. I've always done that. This is the pay. And I can format that the same as this by clicking the paintbrush paint roller and then move it down. And then I can highlight that background, kind of a grayish color. So that way I know that's a header. And then this is Andrew. He has 3 days that I have to pay him $10. Okay. So I have right here, let's go check and see if it's true. I have Andrew on, and this is between these dates, right? So let me put Andrew down here on these dates that are outside that line too. So let me put Richard, Andrew, Michael, and you know what? We added somebody. So Andrew, what do we do when we add somebody?
You got to throw them in above Michael.
Exactly.
Above that last one.
Or above Wayne. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Oops. Okay, so what I would do, okay, so it's not wanting to do it. It won't let me do it because I have these other formulas over here, so it's messing it up. So here's what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to add Russ. And I'm going to see if it adds it to it. Why did it do that? K6. Where's that coming from? Oh.
You had something in that column, or
oh,
then you moved it.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Do not realize that I did that. Thank you. All right. So with that, okay, let's see if Russ shows up now. I just real curious when I add it to the end. No, he did not because it only goes within there. So that, Andrew, you are right. So what we need to try and do, let's figure out how we're going to do this. I'm going to have to move this here.
Mm-hmm.
I see that changes that reference because it doesn't exist. And I'm going to add Russ here.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. Is that right? No. So now Russ will be in the list because I added him in the middle. See, there he is. Then I can add Andrew again, and then we'll do Michael again. Okay, so now, and I don't like that formatting because it changed to that. So I want to change this by hitting the paint roller on my name and changing it so it's the same there. But I have to fix this. I have to fix this now. So now what I can do, since this is K4 and this is K3, this is a trick you can see. K3 and K4 are correct. Okay, so they're pulling names properly. Okay, so I'm going to highlight the two of those, and I'm going to drag those down so it fixes these two, and then it picks up Russ and Wayne properly. Because then one thing that this little corner does down here, it'll add everything you're doing from above that. I mean, so like if this is K3, if I drag this down, this one will be K4, K5, K6, whatever's in that formula, like this is K3 in that formula, I can drag this down and it picks those up. Just as if let's say there's nothing in there. There's no formulas in here at all. But I want this to fill in with all these that are here. I can just drag this down and they all fill in. Even though I went past it, it still was looking for K8, but there's nothing over here in K8. So that's how you do that, but that's how I added a person. You have to add a person in the middle in order for this data validation to pick it up over here, which is kind of cool. But you know, you learn that over time too, how to pick those kind of things up. So what it's doing, and Andrew, you saw where I added your name over here.
Mm-hmm.
It did not add anymore because it's only looking between those two dates for those names. So what I can do now, let's change the date. Let's change the date now to include up to, let's say the 23rd, because you're on the 23rd, but you're not on the 24th. You see that down here is the 24th, 23rd,
Right.
where Andrew is on the 23rd and then not on the 24th. So let's change that to the 23rd. Because remember, my formula said up to or equal to. All right, so it added one more, which was correct because that's 4. Now, if I go ahead and include the last date, 9/26, now we got all 5. Andrew, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It counted every time Andrew was in there for 5. Now I want to do that same thing on these dates. I'm going to change the dates back to 9/20. See, it doesn't even have to be a date that's in there. Like 9/20 is not even listed over here, but it knows to grab it from the dates that are listed here. Now, because I locked those at B4 like I wanted to, and through B and G4 and G, you see up in the formula, I have all that. And I also locked those dates into M1 and M2 over here. Because I did that, now I can just take this bottom thing. Remember how I did that little, I think they call it an anchor. I can take that and drag that down. So for all these people, Richard had 2, Michael had 1, Russ had 0, and Wayne had 2. So why did Russ have 0? Because I see his name over here, right?
But that's on the 24th.
The date.
Very good. Very good. You guys picked up on that right away. Excellent. That's exactly correct. Now, I want something that looks a little bit more presentable when I want to copy and paste something that looks pretty awesome when I go to pay the guys. Let's say I'm going to send this in an email and say, I want to pay these guys. Okay. So I want something that's going to look pretty presentable. So what I want to do is I want to make sure I have all the names first. Okay. So let me get, hold on a second. Let's see. So let me get, okay. So I want to T3, T1. Why do I have that like that? T1. Oh yeah, T1 is on everyone. Yeah. Okay, so I want to, first of all, I got to get everybody's name, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do is how would you do that? This is everybody over here that I need to get. Okay. So give me an idea or what you would think. How would I get those names? Just tell me what you would do in a form. Remember, this is a workshop. This isn't just a demo or whatever. So you guys tell me what you think you would do just to get those names. I did it one time before over here. Remember how I got those?
I would copy, this is probably incorrect, but in the column called umpire,
Yeah.
and that last group of names is all the individual names plus a duplicate. So I would highlight that and paste it copy and paste it. But there's a duplicate, and I think there's a way to mark a paste without duplicates.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Let me just try it. So if I do this, if you notice, this has names, this has names.
Right.
So this just gives me names, no formulas. But rather than do that, I want it to be automatic. Okay. I would like it to be automatic. So what I'm going to do is, what's that?
You're using equal signs to
reference. There you go. There you go. Equals. I'm going to go over here where people are paid and hit Andrew Hatchett. Now I have Andrew Hatchett. So it's equal sign M3. I'm going to start with M3 and all the way down, anybody that's paid. And I'm going to go just like I did before and drag this anchor till I get all the names. Okay. All right. So now I have that. Now what I want to do, since the pay is $10, I want to take this, however many games he did, or however many times he was here that he gets $10, and then add that 10 and multiply that $10. So what I want to do is I want to do equals, same thing, equals that the 3 games times, which is a star, and 3 times, and then that $10. Yeah, but again, now, if I did the same thing for Richard, that N2 is going to change to N3, right? And I don't want that to happen. So what do I have to do? I have to lock it. F4, that F4. just the N2 to lock, though. So I hit F4 while it's on the N2, hit enter, and look at there. The Andrew got 3 games, he got $30. Okay. Now I'm going to format that to the left, everything. So now when I copy this down, this gives me, Richard had 2 times 10 is 20. Michael had 1, so he gets 10. So it multiplies it out. Okay. That's pretty awesome to be able to do that. Okay. Well, I could just do that right here. Equals, and let's do that. This times this, and lock it, F4, boom. That gives me my amounts over here. Okay. So now this is going to be interesting. This is where it gets really powerful. I only want only want people on the list if their name is greater. If there's, like, here's no games. There's no reason to put Russ on this list because he didn't have any games. So here's where you can do a filter, equal filter. Okay. This range. Okay. Filter that range where Russ, where it's greater than 0. You got a filter, you got a condition here. So it would be that same range, this range, we'll take N, for example, greater than 0. So look at there. It gave me all the names. How about that? Gave me all the names and left out Russ because I applied that filter formula up in one cell. This is the beauty of Google Sheets versus Excel. Google Sheets will give you the chance to do this, and it puts all the data down below, where Excel, you have to sit there and add every single one, unless they've changed that. Now, I haven't looked at that in a long time, and it might be different now. I don't know. but this was one of the reasons why I used this instead. Now, we have this middle column of data that we really don't need. We don't need that, okay? So that's why I did it the other way when I was doing this, to get just the ones I want, and then you could actually sort that column and leave the 0 at the end, and then I could just copy what I wanted, okay? So this is more of a challenge of how do I get rid of this middle row when you're doing filter, because filter will not take out that. It gives you all the data that is to as far as you're taking. Like I went from M3 to 07 or whatever. So that changed that. So another way of doing this, you could kind of do the sum product that we did before. If you remember that sum product to get this, I want to get everything. So if you remember how we did the sum product, let's go back to that. I want to get everybody's name. I want to get everybody's name out of this column. Okay, that gives me every name out of that column where it matches Andrew Hatchett. And then it has to be between these two dates. I want to look in the date column to get those dates. So some product would be the same, kind of the same thing. I want to get every name where N is not 0. As my second thing, I only want the actual pay. Let me just put actual just to give it a title. Okay, and we can make that same formatting that we have over here. Boom. So let's try that. Let's see if a sum product would be a better answer for that. So give me sum product. Okay, so now I have sum product. I'm picking M3. So now I only need M3 through M7. Okay, so because I'm looking, and this is locked, so I'm going to put F4 to lock it. But I only want column O. I don't need N. I just want O. O. And if you notice, whenever I do this, I hit 0. Hold on. Whenever I do this, these columns change color. I'm working on yellow, purple, and then blue, yellow, purple, and then blue. It's kind of nice to see all of those sections. I want to get all the names, all the names from M3 through M7. I want to get all of the amounts, the actual amounts that we owe them, okay, that are greater than 0. But I also want to make sure that, well, let's just see what this does, okay? Let's just see what this one's going to do. And hit enter, see what results that gives us. 0. Okay, why did that give us a 0? Okay, because we have to have, this is the thing when you're using formulas, okay? You have to think this all the way through on a lot of these things that you're doing. So this is looking as one formula. So let me try this, see if this is the reason, because I put in brackets the one before and see if that helps. Let's just see if it does. Nope, still didn't do it. Okay, so there's things you have to do all the time that figure out what you want to pull over for information. Okay, this is not an array formula. Let me try and make this array formula. Oops, let me spell it right. That would help big time. Spelling is important. Let's try that. Nope, that didn't work. Okay, so basically all the things that I've tried, some product wouldn't work in this case, where filter did. Okay, filter did. So if we go back, I'm just going to hit back arrow until we get back to the filter formula, which was good. So what I would do just to save time and try and figure out another formula, I wanted to show you some product where some product doesn't work, where you can't use it, where it doesn't give the results that you want. And I wanted to show you that what you have to do sometimes is things like this. This is what I would do. So what I would do is I'd just reverse those columns. So to me, I would just put this here and then move this over here. So this would be the actual amount based on that. That's the way I would come up with it. So now my data is all right here where I want it. So if you notice right here, this filter did exactly the results that I wanted quickly. See how that came up with that really quickly? Then what I like to do, okay, so if I want to center this, and if you remember, I can put on here equals. Okay, now I'm going to use text umpire pay because it's going to say this every time. And then I'm going to put a space next to it. And then I'm going to put and this is fun stuff. This date. Okay, this just gives me the date between. But if I just put that date, watch what happens. It gives it the numerical date that Sheets gives. So what I have to do is I have to put it as text. So text quote M1, because that's the data that I'm changing, comma. Actually, I don't think I need quotes around it. Let me just try it both ways. It's been a long time since yeah, I think M1, but I need it to be MM month / DD date / year, and then quotes, and then enter, and then let's see what that does. See, now it gave me the proper umpire pay 9/9/2019. So I have to do that, and then I can put in and through, close the quotes, add the and back. That's how you add text in that you want in every single time. So whenever the date changes, those words all stay in the right place. And then I want to do the same thing. Text M2. Oops, let me open my parentheses. M2, comma. And then I want to do the same thing. MM / DD / year. That's the way I want it to show up. I want to close that. Let's hit enter and see what happens there. Look at there, umpire pay through those dates, and this is how the results come. Very nice. That's exactly what I want. I want this to be okay. I want to. This is merging cells. I want to merge these so this all looks as one in a title. Then what I can do here, I can highlight that whole thing. If you remember from the last lesson that I gave, or I think it was actually on, forget what it was on. It might have been on one of the shows that I did or something. I can go here and I can add I think it's insert or format theme. There you go. And was it theme? No, it wasn't a theme. What was it? What did I do? Trying to remember what it was. I did alternating colors. There we go. Alternating colors. There we go. So now I can change that, make it nice and fancy. If you look right there, you can see the very quickly. I have that at the top, and then these look good. Now I can just highlight this, copy and paste it. I can go over to my email. Let me just put Gmail. Go into my Gmail, and I should be able to just compose, and I can just copy and paste my umpire pay for the week. Boom, it's right there in the email. Boom. Just a matter of just quickly doing all of that stuff all in one, step by step, just taking it from there quickly, and it's automatically does it. So if I'm in the next week, and let's say I wanted to do the 23rd through the 26th, I just change the dates up here, 9/23, 9/26, and look at there. All the data changes because of the formulas that I have in, everything's set up, and you can see now Russ has games. Michael, Richard, and Andrew, there we go. There you go. That's how you do that kind of stuff. As far as adding and putting in different things and making those things work to where how you want it. Any questions you guys have? Yes,
I do. I do
All
have a question.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with a relatively small list of names, is there any advantage or disadvantage of using first name as one column, last name as a column, or last name, comma, space first name in a cell. Is there any advantages or disadvantages of, especially for the name, for this example, of what you don't want to do? I think is really what my question is. I see what you did, and that makes sense. In a small list of names, that makes sense. But what if you had 35 people? Would you still use the name in one cell, first name, first name space, last name?
It's a good question. I think if how you want to sort and all that kind of stuff, it makes a difference in that. I think that's what you have to determine what you want to use the data for. The reason that I did this at the very beginning, I actually, when Andrew and I were first in here by ourselves, I just had Richard, I had Andrew, I had Michael, and I had Russ. But I knew that the guy needed to write a check for these umpires. So I needed their full name. If you have two names in two separate, here, for example, I can do Andrew right here, and then I can do Hatchet right here. Then I can have a third cell. I can add a column where I can concatenate or whatever that's called, equals concatenate or whatever, concat. There you go, concat, and I can take value 1, comma, and value 2, and then just hit enter, and look, it adds them together. Okay? I can actually do that. And I think you can even add the space using that formula. But if I didn't want to do that, I can always do this. Equals, I can just choose whatever that is, I16. And then I can do and I can do, remember how I did the space like this, and then do another and then just add the last name. I can do that. So now the space is in there too. So anytime, basically, and then I can copy this down. And if I want both, if I want Russ, oops, I didn't mean to hit that, hit the wrong thing, sorry. Didn't mean to, Worthington. Now Russ Worthington comes in a 2-word.
Okay. Now, the reason why I asked that question, because I'm thinking of a similar use, but a lot more names. What you just showed me is that I could keep the Google Sheet, last name, comma, first name, or two different cells for sorting purposes. But that red multi-shaded area, you could format the names as first name, last name for the person who's going to write the check, correct?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff you can do. So for example, if you get everything in, if this is the way all of your data comes in, Worthington Russ, comma Russ, if it comes in that way, you can make formulas to take everything. You can take everything right of the comma. It'll pull out just Russ and put it here. And then a space, you can add that, and then you can pull everything left of the comma that brings it Worthington.
All right,
and then put it Russ Worthington.
So what you just told me is that here I can do the name any way I want, and you can make the formula rather than two columns. I want one column with the last name, comma, space, first name. I can do it that way. I can do the name any way that I want to, depending on how many names that I have. Is that?
Yes.
And get the output.
My suggestion is, though, one thing that I would do personally, I like to separate the names because I like to sort by last name.
Right.
Or I might want to sort by first name. So I always do this as two separate columns whenever I'm doing it. But if you're not getting the data in that way, sometimes you can't do that.
Well, you're getting the point that I was trying to get to, because I generally do 2 columns or 3 columns, nice. Just for the sorting purposes, and I can do sort by last name and first name, column X and column Y. So you can sort, if you got 2 Hatchets, you have Andrew and Mary,
Mm-hmm.
and so they can be sorted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right.
Absolutely.
And Russ, I'll give you an example. It really depends on how you're going to use your data. If you're going to be using the spreadsheet to build a mail merge on, you will almost always want your first name,
Absolutely.
your last name in the column.
Absolutely.
If you're not going to be using it for a mail merge and you just got a favorite
Well,
sort way, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
but it gives
Mail
you-
merge almost
this way it gives you a
requires,
chance.
you know,
This way it gives you a chance, you know, and there's definitely there's formulas out there to break out. Like some people, they used to ask me this, hey, I have the address, then I have the city, state, and zip together. Or should I do them separate? And I say, always do them separate because you can always blend them together.
Yep,
It's really,
yep.
mhm.
really not like I just did right here. If you look at this formula in here, I took Worthington first, put the comma in there, and then put the name after.
Yep.
You can
yep.
make a formula to do anything you want with the data that's separated. It's harder to break down a formula that's going to be able to break out everything left of this and all that kind of stuff. So you have to worry about more stuff. So my thing is even collecting data. Sometimes I'll get a data from a list where it has a comma between everybody's name. I'll set up formulas to give those to separate them out for me.
But if you bring
And
it,
then I bring that into my database
yeah.
as two separate names.
Well,
and it
well,
works.
the comma, if you save the file as a .csv file, and the field
Mm-hmm. Merge it
separator
out.
is the comma,
Yeah,
it'll
comma
come
delimited.
in the
Yes.
various columns. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
And so I'm glad to hear you say that. I want individual columns
Mm-hmm.
for each absolute that's because that's what I have done, and whatever I'm doing, and I use sheets all the time.
Yep.
But that's what I wanted to make sure that, because what you can do is, like you said, rearrange those fields, or if you're doing a merge, any kind of merge,
Mm-hmm.
you can break each individual field out.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't realize, was I not screen sharing when I showed these? Am I sharing?
Yeah, I'm looking at your screen.
Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't know if I was still sharing it or not. I couldn't
Yeah.
tell. Okay. Good. I just wanted to make sure I was. All right. So, well, good. So you guys can see a lot of the different uses and different things. And I threw a lot of formulas out you and stuff like that, just so you could kind of see what some of these formulas can do for you. Some product is a very powerful one. It's a huge one that I really like to do. I use that quite often in a lot of the stuff to pull in different names. I'll do things like that. I could have even done a filter on this to just give me names that are listed over here, and then it'll only give me those names that are listed over there. So it's kind of fun. It's there's a lot to it sometimes, but also when you see the possibilities of what you can do, a lot of times it's like, oh, okay, I think I could use that. I have a couple uses where I could use that. Anybody? Yes, you got a question.
All right, hypothetical.
Uh-huh.
So for the names, if I want to send a file to somebody and say for Wayne Nix, how can I make a unique identifier to where it goes, like I'll make Wayne Nix ABC, and then I'll make Russ GFD.
Okay.
That way I can have all the data sent to somebody to where they wouldn't know that name, but all the other information would be related.
Okay, so you're saying every time Wayne Nix shows up, you have data for that, but you're using an alias ABC.
Right.
That's kind of what you're saying. Okay, so what I would do, okay, so it's like you don't want to give information like with real data because of whatever legal reasons and stuff like that.
Right.
What I would do is over
it's a
here.
Christmas list, and I don't want the kids
Yeah.
to know who's getting
There
what.
you go. There you go. There you go. Great example. Okay. So what you would do is you would have a helper column. In that particular case, I would have a helper column. Okay. So if I had, for example, Andrew Hatchett, if I saw Well, okay, hold on. Let me undelete this. Okay, so if I have all the names listed right here, boom, 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 they're all listed there for me. I would have ABC, DEF, GHI. I forgot my alphabet. Hold on, I gotta work on it.
That's good.
So anytime you're doing the code from here, Andrew. So right now it's looking up Andrew Hatchett and giving you a result. Okay. So the formula doesn't change because of that name. But what you would do is you would have another column, insert to the left. I'm sorry, that's off screen. That's really wonky. Didn't mean to do that. ABC, oops, C, DEF, GHI. You would have this here. So now you see how this changed because it's looking for those numbers. But instead of that, you would have these over here, A, B, C, D, E, F. These would show up. You just change this formula. Let me see if I can change this formula. Filter from N to O. So instead of M, it's going to be N3 to O. And now ABC is 20, DEF is 10, GHI is 20. You still have it next to the column next to their name every time their name shows up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's simple.
Yeah. That's the easiest and simplest way. Go to where your data is being collected here. This is where the data is being collected. All of the pertinent information that you want is being collected right here. What you do with it afterward is where you do all this magic stuff. Like if I didn't want that, N through O or whatever, I would change that. I would put the name back in there or take that column out or whatever, that kind of thing. But that's how you do. That's how you do. It's just where it's looking for that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's how it pulls the data. Did that answer?
Yeah, that's one way to
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
What else?
and I use that actually, and I call it, one column is called, I've got first and last name, and then the other column is called display ID, and that's where I put the A, B, C, D, E, F, and the display ID is the only thing that is actually shown anywhere.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because the other thing is too, is no one has to know that. So for example, if I have my sheet right here, I can actually hide column N. I can hide it. And then over here, you still see the data never changed. See, it's still pulling that A, B, C, D, E, F. And they're like, where are you getting that? How are you doing that? How is that being found? That kind of thing. So that's the simplest way, just by hiding and unhiding a column or whatever. That's what I do a lot of times when I'm doing, I'll take real data and I want to, like at work or something, I'll have real numbers and I'll have exactly what it is. And then I'll decoy a name, change a name on something to protect people's names and stuff, and just put that, like you said, ABC or whatever. I'll do stuff like ID. If I'm talking about people, I usually do ID 1002 or something like that. I just change their ID number. And then I always make sure it's right next to the data that I'm pulling. Like if I pull in all of the Andrew Hatchetts, I'll use that ID number instead. I just pull that ID number to get the data. That's what I do. It's just easier. Because I can go right over here, even if I wanted to right here, and I could have a column right here that's next to Andrew's, could be ID 1022. This is 1023.
You're not screen sharing anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks. But like if Andrew's name's already here, I could have the ID name number right here next to it if I wanted to, and then just pull ID numbers. But I'd have to have a list here, like instead of umpire, I would have ID and just have IDs of who's doing what. That's what I would do. Or if this, I could even put a formula there. If this is Richard Clarkson, then put ID number such and such. If this is Andrew Hatchett, look at Andrew Hatchett over here and go to the right one and get his ID number. And then I have a list of all the ID numbers. Then I can just do my data from there. There's lots of different ways and different things. I gave you the simplest. Once the data was collected, this is the simplest way to do it, and it's quick. You saw how quick it was, and look, I just changed this formula, and it changed the data to exactly what I wanted. That's to me, that's simple. Whereas the other way, I have to add formulas to pull this in, to pull the right thing in, change this column, do this. There's a lot more work to it. But if you want to see, if you want people to see how you're getting that other data in those formulas, then that is more beneficial because you want them to be able to see that left-hand side of data. But if you just want them to see the results, my way that I did at the end there is the quickest and easiest way. There's lots of different ways you can do that.
I have a question.
Yeah, keep asking. This is what this
Now,
is for. Yes.
is there any advantage or disadvantage of having the stuff that's to the right of column, to the right of the umpire column on a separate tab?
Yeah, the only thing, yes. I mean, there are advantages because let's say, for example, this sheet right here, this is listed as minors. If this sheet is shown to 6 or 7 people, but you want to do the umpire pay collecting on a different page and you don't want it seen, you could go over to another sheet and make that protected where only certain people can get in to even see it. You can protect that whole sheet so no one knows what I'm doing in the background over there. The only thing that's difficult is going back and forth.
Right.
For purposes here, showing you guys, it was easier for me to show it all in one page because you can see the data along the left, but you can also see all the stuff that I was doing too.
Right.
Whereas
right.
if I had to go back tab to tab, and a lot of times, you can drill through. Like let's say, for example, I want on this date, I want all of the games together on one sheet for this date, and you can pull just that data over into another sheet that gives you like a master sheet. Like you can see over here, master fall. I'm not going to go to master fall because I don't think I changed any data on that, but master fall would give you all of those calendars together and pulled into one place. Now you're talking about some formulas that are deep. They're pretty deep.
So let me, I want to try to stick with your theme here of your umpires. So would you have,
yes, you can come umpire for me, Russ. Yes. Oh no, I'm sorry.
No, you have a tab that says all the contact information for the umpires,
Mm-hmm.
and you assign an umpire ID. All right.
Yep.
On one tab.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have the second tab. This is one league that
Mm-hmm.
you're responsible for. This tab, you have another tab for a different league
Mm-hmm.
that uses the same group of umpires.
Okay.
Well, if you rather than have the umpire name, you put in the umpire ID number.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have that mastered list of people with their contact information on one tab and use the master. Now, isn't there a way to look up what the umpire ID is? Pulling the data from that first tab?
Yes, for sure. You
Okay.
could definitely do that. I mean, you can, like I can do right now, I can give me, so for example, I have a list of all these umpires, all these different umpires here, and I want to get a unique list. Okay. I can do equals unique. Okay. But you would just add in what you want to look for. So yes, a V lookup, I know what you're saying. You're saying a V lookup. I want to look up this umpire's name, but pull in his ID.
Exactly.
To answer your question is yes.
Okay.
And a V lookup is the best way to do that if your umpire names are on the left-hand side. If not, an index match works better for that. Again, I'm telling you, I'm getting advanced here. Index match works better than V lookup because you can go left or right from wherever the data is that you're looking for. So, let's see. So one thing that's kind of cool too is I can do unique, and I can go from here from G4 through G, and this gives me a unique list of every name listed Okay, so that just gave me a unique name of everyone listed from that list, because remember where she had entered extra before this is what before I started, before I did the validation, it gave the extra. That's why extra is showing up too. So you can find out if you have names misspelled or something like that. It'll give you unique, like if I put 2 R's in Richard and it allowed me to take it, I would see that by pulling the unique data. Again, I'm not sure if Excel does this. I know Google Sheets at one time was the only one that did this, but it probably does now. I would say that Excel probably does that now with a unique formula. There's some cool formulas that Sheets only has that I use all the time now. Mark, I saw you had a question. I don't want to get too far gone, but let me answer his question real quick. I look
This
for
is the top result.
Oh, hush. I was looking for split screen, but I guess for Sheets, you could just use 2 browsers open to different sheets.
Yeah, I think Russ was asking like if you had one tab open, but it was pulling from another tab. I was just, well, you could do a split screen in Excel to see both sheets at the same time.
Yes, you can do that. You can do a split screen to see both sheets. You certainly could. Absolutely. I can pull one and push it over. I can actually, I don't know if you can do this. I think you can do the same sheet. You could actually pull one side of a sheet and one side of a sheet over here and have 2 sheets open at the same time. No, you can do that in a browser with Google Sheets. I don't think you can do that with Excel. I think it has to be 2 different sheets, I think, but I'm not positive of that. If you're on the same sheet, I think, but I'm not positive. Again, these are all differences why I moved over to Google Sheets to do a lot of this stuff, because I could do those kind of things. The other thing is too, one thing that is,
Okay.
oh, hush, would you stop? She is bugging me. My phone is bugging me. So VLOOKUP, yes, is a way that you could do that to pull in the data that you wanted. Anything else on that, Russ, that you wanted to?
Nope.
Okay. There's lots of things, lots of way to get data, a lot of way to push data and do different things, and how you want to use it. It's very nice to be able to collaborate with someone. So if you have, and give permissions to certain areas or tabs and protection and stuff like that. I think if you go to our last show that I did on Google Sheets, you will see where I showed how to do protection. Unique is available in Excel. Okay, good. As an advanced filter. Awesome. Excellent. Thank you, Wayne. I'm learning, because I'm sure a lot of this stuff they came up with is because Google had it, on their sheets, and they're like, oh my gosh, we got to get this. But I just haven't, seriously, I haven't used Excel probably in 4 years. So it's good to have someone that's using that, so I can see, where they've advanced, what they've come to, and that kind of thing. And like I said in our last show, I always convert an Excel sheet into Google Sheets, do all my editing and data, and then pass it back to Excel. That's one nice feature that I like. So
Okay, Michael, I've got a question. The where you've got the ABC and the orange and white, that right there.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't want anybody to see anything except that, you could take that particular thing and put it on a second page of the workbook, and then just share that second page out so that only the public would see that, wouldn't see anything else except that. Right?
No, what I would do is a whole different workbook. I wouldn't do it as a separate sheet, because they're going to be able to see every sheet. You might be able to protect it where they can't get in and see it, but I would just have a whole complete other sheet.
Oh, okay. So there's no way to say just share sheet 2 of such a workbook. You have to share the entire workbook.
That's right. That's
exactly
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But what I would do in your case, what I would do is I'd just go like this. I'd make everything white,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd make all the backgrounds white. So now they probably don't think there's any data, and all they're looking at is that.
Okay.
So now all the text is white, unless they go up in here. I can protect that and they can see the formulas. I can protect that whole area and then it's not seen. So you can do stuff. There's little tricks like
Okay.
that you can do if you don't want people messing but they can accidentally, inadvertently just type over something that you got going on and you're like, God, I wish they wouldn't have touched that or whatever. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Yeah.
So there's ways if they have to have access to this page or whatever, and I want to hide some stuff, I can do that. And I could have done this formula way over here. I could come way over here and actually add columns. If I wanted to add a bunch of columns to the right, I can just right click, insert 9 right, and just keep going. I can do this formula way over here where they're not going to be looking.
Ah,
And so then,
neat trick.
like I said, there's a lot of tricks that you can do. I've been dealing with spreadsheets forever. So, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do and different things that you can apply and use and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, a lot of times I'll use a separate sheet. I mean, a whole separate workbook or whatever, like Excel calls it workbook. This is sheets, a whole separate sheet, because one of the awesome things that you can do, and I don't think Excel does this, is import a range from another sheet, because you get the ID. Since it's web-based, you get the ID of that other sheet, and then you can import the data from that other sheet, and it's constant. You don't have to have both of them open. It used to be in Excel, you had to have both of them open, and then it would pull data from sheet to sheet, but they had to both be open. And that, again, that's probably all changed because of 365 and everything else. Now, Google just makes it so simple for import range. I just put the ID of that other sheet and it just pulls in the data. So to answer your question, that's what I would do.
Okay.
I would just make it in a whole different sheet and just put it that way. And a lot of times your data comes in on one sheet. You don't have to have all the information on that sheet. You can do a query that'll pull over just the columns that you want.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the query function on Google is incredible in what it does. It uses SQL, which is SQL, I think they call it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use the same commands if you're familiar with that. I'm not, but I learn a lot because I do a lot of studying and watching videos that'll pull in a lot of stuff. And I know I'm probably blowing people's mind here, but there's a lot of things you can do that can help you with that kind of stuff. Like just like what Russ was saying, you might have just one page of here's my members and here's their ID. You can pull in from that sheet all the information that you want and get just unique people that are in there. And that unique thing is a great way to find duplicates. I wonder if this is the same guy. He spells his name, whatever, or maybe when it was typed in, it was spelled wrong and stuff like that. That's a really good function too, to find that kind of stuff too. Or if you mistype sometime or something like that. What else? Anybody else got anything?
Not from me.
Okay. I'm going to end this just because it's probably going to get I don't want it to get too long for anybody rewatching. If anybody has any questions on Google Sheets, you can reach out to me. I got a lot of stuff that I do, a lot of stuff that I know that I've done. A lot of times I don't know how to do something, but I will get the answer eventually. So if you need any help, just reach out to me as part of the community. I love having the interaction. I appreciate you guys coming in, taking part of your Sunday coming in. I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun doing this stuff.
Awesome, and thank you for your help.
Absolutely.
Teaching us this. The various commands have always been my downfall because I can't figure out how I would use that command. So having you demonstrating that command makes sense. I gotta have to go back and look at the product term that you used. But I will look at it outside, not here, but that was a term that I hadn't seen before, and you properly explained it before I joined. So there's something in that term that I need to understand, and I'll do that separately.
Some product is a powerful. I absolutely love it. Use it all the time.
Yep. Gotcha.
It's very, 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 very very, very important. A very good one that I use all the time.
Yeah, I saw that the more you went through, but I missed the introduction to it, but I will go back and watch the beginning of the recording.
Yeah, no problem. Yep. And if, like I said, I would love, if it was up to me, I'd do one of these every week because I love Google Sheets and there's a lot of stuff you can do with Google Sheets. So if it was up to me, that's what I would do. If there's no other questions, I'm going to stop the recording. We can chat further if you guys want to. That's no problem. No other questions?
We're good.
All right. Let me go here. Get back to stop recording.